Authority Standards and Governance Committee. This meeting, I am so sorry, I'm just going to shut a door. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, it was bound to happen. Anyway, this meeting is being held remotely and members are in attendance via video conferencing. The meeting is being live streamed on the authority's website and will be available for repeated viewing. Those participating in the meeting are consenting to being recorded and use of these images for broadcasting purposes. I will begin by telling you the members who are in attendance for the public record. We have Councillor Carter, who is here as Chairman of the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority, Councillor Sharon Mintoff, who is here as Vice Chairman of the Standards and Governance Committee, Councillor Glenn, Hampshire County Council, Councillor Price, Hampshire County Council, and Councillor Hockley, Hampshire County Council. I think that's it. Thank you. During the meeting, if a member wishes to speak, they will indicate this to me by using the raising their hand function as a primary method. If that becomes unavailable, they will put something in the chat box, the RTS, which is a request to speak. All decisions will be reached through calling out for members' agreement on the recommendations, and if they have any objections to the recommendations, they have to speak at that time. The outcome of this will be decided, will be confirmed before moving on to the next agenda item. I would like to remind members that the Constitution standing orders will apply to please keep your microphone muted unless you've been called to speak, and you may be visible on the screen to the public and to members of the public even when you are not speaking. We have other members of the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority here. We have Shanta Dickinson, who's an Assistant Chief of Hampshire Fire and Rescue. Who else do we have? Says I, looking through the thing. Neil's not here. No. Okay. Right. If we go to the agenda pack, do we have any apologies for absences, Jackie?
No, we haven't received any for today's meeting. All members are present.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. To enable members to disclose to the meeting any disclosable pecuniary interest they may have any matter on the agenda for the meeting, where that interest is not already entered in the authority's register of interests, and any other pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests in any such matter that members may wish to disclose. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Moving on then, we'll move on to minutes of the previous meeting. For those who have got a pack with them, they're on pages 3 to 6. If we go through for accuracy, first of all, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6. Anyone got any comments on the minutes of the last meeting? No. Are you all content for me to sign the minutes of the... Oh, Councillor Glenn, you're content?
I'm saying agreed, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Glenn. Right. Moving on, we're going to item 6. No, sorry. We're going to item 4, which is deputations. I'm not aware of any deputations, Jackie.
No, we've not received any for today.
Okay. I have no announcements to wish to make other than perhaps like everyone else. I look forward to the day when we're actually meeting in person again. We will now move on to item 6, which is the external audit results report, and you'll find that on page 7 of your pack. Okay. Now, who's going to present this? Rob, are you going to lead this off?
Yeah, I'll just start, Chairman, if that's okay. So obviously we've already had one audit results report at our last meeting.
Mhm.
So this is an updated version based on the auditors completing their audit work. Very little change from the last time you saw it. I also sent out a letter of representation to you last night again, which has had no changes other than an extra unadjusted audit differences. So I'll just hand over to Kevin to take you through his report.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much, Rob.
Kevin.
Thank you, and good morning, members. So I think Rob has summarised this very well. That there is very little change in here since the last meeting, so I'm not going to take you through page by page. I am just going to draw your attention to the two areas that were outstanding when we came to the last meeting and let you know what has been updated. So if I could turn your attention to page 23 of the reporting pack. And that section is on the pension liability valuation. So when we reported to you last time, the outstanding element we had was the final assurances from the audit of the Hampshire pension fund, so the local government pension scheme element. So that has now been concluded and received, and it results in a minor unadjusted audit difference, which is due to the difference between what the actuary estimated the fire authority's share of the assets should be compared to what we think they should be based upon the final pension fund audited accounts. The difference is essentially that the actuary was provided with some information around the year end before all the accounting adjustments were made on the Hampshire pension fund audit, and therefore that those final adjustments just flow through into all the members of the pension fund for the year. But it's an immaterial number. Management have chosen not to adjust this difference, and so therefore that's not going to affect our audit opinion should you agree with management's view that that can remain unadjusted.
Do you want to stop there and we'll ask people? I mean, I would agree with management that we don't adjust the figure, but does anyone else? Roger, you're the pensions guru.
This is a different pensions one because this is the county organised one, not the firefighters one. I mean, I would agree with the accounts staying as they are. I think that I take what management say.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Right. Anyone object to that? Because, you know, if not, we'll just carry on. Sorry, Kevin, do carry on.
That's okay. And then the second element that has been updated is over the page on page 24, and that relates to our work on the going concern disclosures within the accounts. So at the time, we were waiting for the final information through from management, and therefore we needed to undertake the conclusions of our work and go through a mandatory going concern consultation process. So that has now been concluded. We are satisfied with the disclosures that have been made in your accounts, and our conclusion is that we don't actually think any modification of our audit report is necessary. So we're not including an emphasis of matter, which we said we may consider at the last meeting. So the audit report is as presented in section 3 of the report here today.
Thank you. Carry on.
So those were the two major updates. I wasn't going to bring anything else particularly to the committee and the members' attention this morning, but once again, we'll be happy to take any questions or comments on the report if you had any.
Thank you. Right. Questions, members? No? Everyone happy? Gosh, can't believe that. Councillor Glenn, you're happy too. Right, shall we just go to the page 6? No. Yeah, no, page 7, 8, 9. And go to the recommendation that the committee receives and notes the latest external auditor's HFRA audit results report for the year ended 31st of March 2020, and that the committee considers that any recommendations that it may wish to make to the full authority in respect of the annual audit letter. I suspect that what we want to do is get the full authority just to note and accept the audit report.
Agreed.
Agreed with everyone?
Agreed.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. That was very short and sweet today, so thank you.
Not a problem. It did help. We discussed it in full last time.
Yes. So if we could move now to item 7, which is HFRA Internal Audit Progress Report 2020 to 2021. It starts on page 61 of your packs. And Karen, is this you?
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. Yes, just 2 parts to my progress report today. So the first part deals with the progress of delivering the internal audit plan for this year to date. And the second part considers the external quality assessment. So if I start with the progress report, standard format from me. And as you know from previous reports, there have been delays to starting the internal audit work this year due to COVID-19 and the impacts that that's had. And also my team continue to work remotely in delivering the work. That said, we've been having regular meetings with colleagues in the service to review the plan, make sure it remains relevant. Mainly to date, the changes have been around timing, and you'll see from the report that means that the majority of the work is actually in Q3 and Q4. So I don't have a great deal to report to you today. But I think a really good example of that liaison is the inclusion of a review around the risk assessments that have taken place around COVID. And I'm really pleased to say that has resulted in substantial assurance. So I'm sure that will give a good deal of comfort to members. But as I say, other than that, not a great deal of work to report to you today. The variations to date are outlined on page 9. And really the focus for us for the remainder of the year is to make sure that we conduct sufficient work to enable us to provide an annual opinion next year. There are some caveats around that, of course. With the second wave, it assumes that both our staff and fire and rescue staff remain fit and well to enable us to accommodate that work. But at the moment, we don't foresee any problems with resourcing that work, and we do have options if we do experience more delay. We're also getting underway with the shared services work. That's all taking place, and we will continue to be as flexible as we can with timings. But as you'll appreciate, as time goes on, and as we go through, our sort of potential for flexibility is reducing. So those, I think, were the headlines. So shall I pause there for any questions?
That'd be fine. Thank you, Karen. Any questions? Councillor Mintoff.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Karen. We're now in the second lockdown. So is this affecting, sort of any of your team who do the internal audit? And, is there capacity in case somebody does become ill?
Thank you for that. Yes, we are continuing to work remotely. I'm pleased to say that so far our team have remained fit and well, and we are progressing with work generally across the partnership. As I say, my main concern is that the majority of the work for your plan is in Q3 and 4, and hence the caveats I put around that. But assuming that we can, the service can continue to accommodate those reviews, I can't see any reason why we can't complete that work. And we do have regular meetings with Shantha and Alex and Rob to make sure that we remain on track and we know what the issues are in a timely fashion. So, as I say, assuming all of those things hold, we will be in a position to give you an annual opinion. And if not, we'll be very clear as to the reasons behind that. But the working remotely and providing internal audit services remotely has worked very well through Teams. We've been using a lot of different methods to obtain the evidence and share documents and do testing. And I think both our team and our colleagues in the service have been, really adaptable to those changes, which really just happened overnight, didn't they? So,
Yes.
and we continue to develop the approach as well. We're always looking for different ways of doing things.
Thank you very much, and I hope you all stay happy and healthy.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Price.
Thank you. Karen, my question would be is that there are a number of areas in Q3 and Q4. Now, none of us know what is going to happen with COVID, and some of those may slip to Q1, Q2 of next year. Have you prioritised those, or has there been any discussion between yourselves and the service of which ones should be prioritised to make sure they're done in Q3 and Q4 and not the ones that have slipped?
Yes, we as I say, we have regular monthly meetings around the timing of those reviews, and we try to bring things forward as much as we can, as much as resources allow. So those conversations are alive and ongoing. We've also been having early discussions around the plan for next year. So, I think the only assurances I can give you at this stage is that yes, we're well aware of what we need to do. The service are well aware of what we need to do, and we will maintain that regular communication, and we will keep communicating with you as well, should that position change.
Right. Thank you, Karen. Shall we just go to let's ask Karen now to tell us just how well they've done by their external audit report, because our internal auditors have actually been audited for the first time in 5 years. So, Karen, would you like to move on to that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think it always gives people a degree of pleasure to know that the internal auditors are also audited. And it certainly keeps us on our toes and reminds us how it feels to be audited. So I think it's a really healthy process. So the requirement for an external quality assessment was introduced in 2013 with the public sector internal audit standards. And those standards require us to self-assess every year and to have an external assessment once every 5 years. So the first requirement, if you like, was in 2013. So this was the second review that was undertaken. We appointed the Institute of Internal Auditors to undertake that assessment. And the rationale behind that was that the IIA are the global leaders on internal audit right across the public and the private sector. And they not only assessed us against the standards, so that looking at the International Professional Practices Framework, the public sector internal audit standards and the local government application note, but it was also a really, really good opportunity for us to benchmark against best practice across the public and private sector. So I am very, very pleased to report that we were found to be fully conforming to all of those requirements. We did have some very, very useful conversations around the added value and the areas that we could think about developing. Some of them we were already looking at, and but nevertheless some really, really helpful discussions. So included in the IIA's report is our assessment against the maturity matrix, which we were thrilled that came out so well, but also some suggestions that we might wish to develop further. So no formal recommendations as such, but the suggestions we've taken incredibly seriously. We've discussed them with the partnership board, which Rob has recently attended, and we've drawn up our own action plan to progress those so that we can continue to move the service forward. So I'd like to thank all of you who took part in the surveys that were conducted, because it was a very in-depth review. There were surveys across all of our partners, both sort of key contacts, senior officers and members of audit committees. A lot of people were interviewed, and there was also a very thorough review of all of our policies and procedures, and a dip sample into our work as well. So I think that probably summarises the situation for you.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Glenn.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Just want to pass on my thanks to and congratulations to the internal audit group. They're always an unsung group of heroes. I started life as an internal auditor for Fisons, and I know that nobody ever thanks you. So there you go.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Glenn. I think we will thank the internal audit people. I think they've done a superb job. Councillor Carter, do you want to say something?
Thank you. Yes, I do, Chairman. Thank you for that. I just want to pass on my sincere congratulations. I'm looking at page 62, and the report there, excellent in various standards, good into it really is pleased. I'm really pleased to know. If I'm honest, I didn't know that the internal, well, if I did know, I'd forgotten that internal audit was audited themselves in this way, and they've come out so well. Looking at the report, there's an extensive list of stakeholder interviews, and some of them have really commented really positively. So this is excellent news. So and I'm also very pleased to read at page 63, the audit plan will remain fluid to enable us to react to the changing needs. And that is so pertinent to the difficult times we're in at the moment. So all in all, this is really good news for the authority. So well done to everybody in the internal audit team. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Anyone else, or shall we go to the recommendations on page 64 of your pack? Recommendation that the progress in delivering the internal audit plan for 2020-21 and the outcomes to date be noted by the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority Standard and Governance Committee. And then the next recommendation that the outcomes of the external quality assessment of SIAP and the assurance that provides over the quality of internal audit work be noted by the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority Standards and Governance Committee. Councillor Price.
Thank you, Liz. Is that I think that in the paragraph 17 and the recommendations, I think we should actually add some extra words rather than just be noted. I think that we should, I mean, Chris has made the congratulations to them, and I think others have spoken as well, congratulating them on what they've done. I think that should be added in there as well.
I think you're right, Roger. Jackie,
yes.
Could we do that? Have a recommendation? And I think we should also report that back to the full authority, Councillor Carter, and perhaps the full authority could extend their congratulations as well.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. We will ensure that that happens at the full authority meeting, because this is an excellent report. Well, I don't need to repeat what I just said a moment ago. So I'd certainly agree with adding something to that recommendation to confirm our support of this.
Right. Thank you.
External.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I lost my words of what I was going to say there. But I'm agreeing with Roger that we should add a few words to the recommendation.
Thank you very much for your feedback, members.
Thank you.
Councillor Price, can I just ask what the, just for the minutes, what the additional recommendation would be, and if we could have a seconder for that? Thank you.
Right, going to the recommendation on page 64. In the second line, you've got the word noted is the last word, and also congratulated in achieving such a high standard. I would add congratulated and achieving such a high standard.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Lovely.
Happy to second that.
Thank you. Are all members in agreement of that?
Yeah. Any dissenting hands up? No? Right.
Thank
I'll
you.
leave that wording to you then, Jackie. You're happy with
Thank you. I've noted that wording and all members are in agreement. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, if we move to agenda item 8 now, internal audit management actions progress report. It's on page 97 of your packs. And is this you again, Karen?
No, that's me, Councillor Fairhurst.
Oh, sorry, I got that wrong last time as well. Sorry.
Don't worry, it is a bit of a tag team effort. Good morning, members. It's lovely to see you all today. So I'm going to present the services internal audit progress report, the management report, which always follows on from obviously the SIAP report that Karen presents at this committee meeting. So you will be very familiar with it, the format in that it demonstrates which of the management actions that are medium or high are still outstanding, and also gives you an update of the various activities that have taken place since the last update, since the last report to the committee meeting, which I believe was back in July. So to take you to section 5 on page 98, that has the table with the 4 outstanding actions. So so I'll just put some context around those. They all relate to the proactive pay claims audit. And whilst it is not ideal when we commit to delivering against a deadline and move that, there's a very, very legitimate reasons for doing so, which I'm certainly very comfortable with in my role, obviously, as Director of Performance Insurance, and obviously want to talk to you about. So the first one around the removal of the ability to submit paper claims, you will recall that we have a availability system known as Firewatch, which we're going to be looking at the next iteration of, i.e. what availability provision is there for the service going forward. And really it makes sense to bring that removing the paper claims in line with the new software solution. So that is the rationale for the changed revision for that first one. And then the next 3 all relate to the combined fire authority in April 2021 and the preparatory work that needs to take place for that. So the action around removing the miscellaneous wage type and the one below, that is all linked into the coding work around payroll that is taking place, hence the move to April 21 as we become a new legal entity, as new combined fire authority. That is the absolute hard line when that will be in place. And then finally, the last outstanding action, which has been revised to next summer. Again, the rationale for that is linked to the CFA and the one-off exercise that managers, all managers and staff will be required to do across both organisations, is contingent, obviously, on the 2 previous management actions. So, in summary, I'm certainly comfortable from a service perspective in terms of the reasoning behind it, and also I'm confident that with the work that we're doing to prepare for the CFA to execute, obviously CFA, and likewise with the availability, that those revised timelines will be met. Moving you on then to page 99, business continuity. Really, those are some highlights around how business continuity has been in action through the service over this past few months. And no doubt when we have our formal letter from Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary Fire and Rescue in respect of their COVID inspection, we are hopeful that it will also be positive and reflect the good work in that space. And then finally, if I can take you on to page 100 and the more general points within the management commentary. Again, it's thanks to the hard work between my teams and also working very closely with Karen and her teams that we've been able to target the right audits and also make very good progress on open management actions. You'll note that it's in paragraph 13. We've moved from 38 when I last reported to you to 10 as of October. And very finally as well, it can't go without saying that with health and safety, we received a substantial assurance as well. So that's obviously a really good thing to highlight. And that concludes my presentation of the progress report, and I'm of course delighted to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chanta. Rob, did you have your hand up earlier?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was just to comment on that last point on the proactive pay claims. So obviously the timing of that is on the assumption that we get into the new CFA with no problems in relation to pay and arrangements and everything. Clearly, if we get into the new year and there are issues associated with the new CFA, we would need to look at the timing of that again, because we don't want to do it if we've already got other problems to sort out. So just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Well, let's hope there are no problems.
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, Sharon, Councillor Mintoff.
Thank you, Chairman. Going back to management actions, the first one, sorry, I'll get the frog out of my throat. What happens if the new system is delayed? Because I mean, the thing with IT projects is, you know, there is always going to be some slippage. So are we going to see that date moved again, but barring any sort of hiccups with sort of our new combined fire authority that goes live on the 1st of April next year?
Yeah, thanks for that. It's a really good challenge, Councillor Mintoff. Well, I suppose the only real response I can give you is that due to the size and scale of this project, so obviously bringing in a new availability and training software solution, which is critical, I suppose, to what the service does, it would absolutely be less than desirable for any delays in that. So it's certainly, I know and I'm confident of the governance, the programme and project governance around that, that I don't anticipate that, but were that to happen, obviously I would be notified as soon as possible. But no, the absolute intention is, you know, we know that the use of paper claims is less than ideal, and certainly across a number of our other systems, it's something we steadily moved away from over the past 5 years since we've been part of the shared services arrangements. And so therefore there is, you know, we know it's a weak point, and we obviously need to do that as soon as possible. So it's absolutely part of the implementing that new software solution.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sharon. Alex, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just to build on what Shantha said there, really just to provide some additional assurance. So I'm one of the attendees on the project board for that piece of work, as well as attendees from across the service. So just to give assurance that there's been a significant amount of work that's feeding into that project. And obviously myself sitting on the project board will have early sight of any issues where they to appear. But as I say, significant amount of work happening across the service and good progress being made as part of that project.
Thank you. Thank you for that reassurance. Any other questions from members? No. Shall we go to page 102 in your pack, which is the recommendations? Recommendation at 25, that the Standards and Governance Committee notes that, despite the impact of COVID-19, significant progress continues to be made towards the implementation of the internal audit management actions. And at 26, that the Standards and Governance Committee specifically notes the positive findings of SIAP's COVID health and safety risk assessments audit. Everyone happy? Right, thank you. Thank you for that. And now I think, Shantha, we're on to you on item 9, I believe.
Thanks.
Organisational risk register.
Thank you, Councillor Fairhurst. Really happy to be presenting to the Standards and Governance Committee this inaugural 6-monthly report to you, which contains the status and the details on the organisational risks. This will be obviously presented to you on a rolling 6-monthly basis. So as we go forward, it is possible that between each 6-month period, depending on the way that risk is managed through the service, that it might look a little different in terms of the content of the risks and also in terms of the profile of each of the risks. So really, just to kind of contextualise this risk register, what you see on there and on that front page on page 107 are the risks that would seriously impede the ability of the service to carry out its core functions, its core roles. They're the risks on there that absolutely need to be escalated to members, to the Fire and Rescue Authority, and that might mean that different resources need to be marshalled, a potential change in policy, or simply of the potential impact of any of those risks materialising. Clearly, it's right and proper that members are cited and able to scrutinise the service in terms of the management of those risks. So these are the things that, as I said, would seriously impede what we do and how we're able to deliver. In terms of how this risk register it relates to the overall practice of risk management within the organisation, if I can just mention a couple of words on that. So teams will obviously have risk registers, and of course any change activity, any projects, programmes will have risk registers. These go up into directorate risk registers. So for example, in my own Directorate Performance Assurance and Communications, every time the board meets, we are reviewing that. At that point, obviously, we will go through the normal treatment of risks in terms of, controls and the impact on the scoring. And that's also a point then when directors can escalate onto the organisational risk register, which obviously the executive group looks at on a routine basis. So I suppose what I'm trying to paint a picture for you is that this document you have in front of you is not something that exists in isolation. There is a clear, I suppose, golden thread that goes through from the stuff that people are doing out on the front line in small teams, right through to the scrutiny that the executive group apply on a quarterly basis, and also through their normal day-to-day work as directors. So if I can take you to, I hope that contextualises that helpfully for you. If I can take you now to the front page, page 107. It's not my intention to take you through each and every risk, but I just want to spend a few minutes talking about what we've got on there, and then of course really happy to go into any details. So page 107 is designed to be on a page. This is the state of play with the organisational risk. So currently we have 7 on there, and certainly they are ones that you would expect. You can see obviously the detail in the scoring, and then if you go to each of the pages for that risk, it gives you the rationale for why it's that once control measures have been applied, the scoring results in that. You'll also see when you go to the individual pages, there is a director who's responsible for the management of that risk in terms of are the right controls being applied? Do we need to do more? Do we need to do less? And then on page 107, that sort of matrix on the right hand side with the coloured arrows, really what you need to look at it from right to left. So over time we can see how the risk profile is changing. So a good example is the one at reference number 4, so emerging changes to legislation post Grenfell. So this is specifically around building regulations and that kind of legislation. Now, the reason the risk is increased is because some of the requirements around that may require additional resources to be implemented within the service, etc., or significant change to what we do. Likewise, you'll see the one below it, future financial planning uncertainty. I know members have had lots of discussions around that and are well cited through obviously Rob and his team's work, but again, you know, there would be no surprises in that. So as each time this comes to you, you're going to see one more of those boxes, so you'll start to get a sense of how those respective risks are being managed. And I'll probably pause there because there's quite a lot to take in. As I said, really happy to answer any of the questions or respond to any comments you might have for this particular item. Thanks.
Yes, can I just ask a question, Shanta, before I go to members? And I mean, it's very basic, but looking at your reference number 7 on page 107, COVID-related well-being and safety. If a member of a watch out on our stations gets COVID, presumably the whole watch has to go into isolation for a fortnight. Is that right?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Councillor Fairhurst. Absolutely. So I know that we've had 1 or 2 instances, certainly on Green Book members of staff, and whilst track and trace kicks in from an NHS perspective, and some members, you may have been exposed to that anyway, so be familiar with it, but from a service perspective, I've seen a whole host of questions in terms of trying to get real clear detail on the so whoever that member of staff is. So in your example, absolutely, if it's a watch, who are they in contact with, etc., etc. So we can build a picture of, actually, is it that watch, for example, that all need to isolate, or is it you know, or is it other people as well? So yeah, absolutely, there is the right guidance in place to make sure that that should somebody come into those circumstances, then obviously we take the right precautions. Thankfully, I don't want to tempt fate, but thankfully that hasn't happened yet, where we've been impacted in that way.
But you have contingency plans if it does, so that the service delivery is not affected. Yeah.
Absolutely. So right at the start of the pandemic, in the sense of when it sort of really landed within the UK, there was a huge amount of planning that went in, to the point where we were looking at our overall dispositions of appliances and resources across the organisation, so that were we to experience high levels of sickness and absence, we could still be extremely confident that we'd be delivering continuing to deliver an appropriate response across the county.
Super, thank you. Councillor Price.
Thank you, Liz. Can I just ask Shanta, this is headed up organisational risk register. Is there a corporate risk register which sits above this?
So thanks, Councillor Price. No, so this is the corporate risk register. So this is the top level risk register that would be presented to you. So what you would see below that, you would then see, for example, the deputy chief, so Steve with policy and planning, he has his own director at risk register. So for each of the 7 directors, there'd be sort of separate ones, and then it would cascade down into teams, etc. So this is where it all comes together.
The reason that I ask this is that because at the Firefighter Pension Board, we did raise an issue that there should be on the corporate register the risk of the firefighter pensions for the and I don't really see it in here, and it was actually raised at the scheme advisory board as well, that there is a great risk to fire authorities with the firefighter pensions, in the sense that there are only 2 providers who provide all the software, and therefore if something goes wrong there is a risk of being able to administer it. and also about there are so many intricacies within the scheme, and the different authorities up and down the country interpreting them in different ways, and therefore the service locally could get a bad name for what it has done if it interprets it against what others may have given more preferable treatment. So there is a risk there, and the Pensions Committee actually did ask it go on the corporate register. So I don't see it here,
Yes.
and I'm just wondering where it's going to come.
Shall we ask Rob to come in on that one?
Yeah,
Rob?
I think Councillor Price, it's an issue of timing. So obviously this report has been quite some time in the development. So this was updated through exec group, and it's my fault I haven't reflected that additional risk. So I think if we just reflect today that we'll pick that up as a separate risk, and I'll make sure that it gets added.
And thank you very much.
Anyone else? No? Everyone happy with the risk register and the report? So we look forward to having it in another 6 months. Is that right, Shanta? Yeah. Okay. So if we go to the recommendation, is there... Let me just go back. The recommendations on page 106, and it's just that the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority Standards and Governance Committee notes the organisational risk register status under the delegated management of the Chief Fire Officer. Everyone happy with that? Roger.
Liz, do we need to add another recommendation that about the pensions issue is going to be added?
If it's going to be added, yes, we could recommend that. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel it should be, because I think from my perspective of pensions, I think there are risks there, and I think that it'd be only right that we should all be aware of them.
Jackie.
Oh, sorry, I was just unmuting. Shall we include, if members are happy, an additional recommendation that firefighters' pensions are included as a risk in the risk register? In the organisational risk register.
Everyone else in agreement with that? Yeah. Yes, thank you, Jackie. That's it.
Okay.
Shanta, can I just say 6 months seems quite a long time. If anything suddenly goes shooting up, little red arrows go shooting up into the sky, can I ask that you come back instead to the Standards and Governance and report at the time rather than wait 6 months?
Absolutely. I think 6 months would be a minimum. So just to kind of draw you back to when I was discussing how it sits within the overall framework of risk management in the service, it's programmed to be reviewed by directors on a quarterly basis. So there is ample opportunity, and obviously in the discipline that people are doing every day, that we should be cited even more frequently than that. So yes.
Super, thank you. Anything else from members? No. In that case,
Chairman, just to flag up the additional report.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, there was an additional report which was submitted. Sorry, I need to get it up on my iPad. Has everyone else got a copy of it out? No.
What additional report?
It was sent. When was it?
It was circulated on Friday. It's the Independent Person to Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Authority.
Yes. It was circulated by Katie. Katie Sherwood sent it out.
Yeah, that's right, on Friday, and it's been added to the web as an additional item.
Yes. Sorry, my wretched iPad is frozen again. Just let me. We need to have an independent person. We've had 3 in the past, haven't we? And we're going to try and go down to 1. Is that correct?
We have, thank you, Chairman. We have, and apologies that this is a late report. We do have the 1 independent person at the moment. So this report is regarding the setting up of a selection panel working group, which will select and recommend the appointment of an independent person back to Standards and Governance Committee in February before recommendation to the full authority, and it is a legal requirement that the authority appoint an independent person, and authority is delegated to this committee to oversee the recruitment process for this.
Yeah,
so
I've unfrozen. I've got it up now. This is someone, we've always had them. I can't remember in all my time on the fire authority ever having to use one of our independent persons. I think Rob can correct me. I think they get about £100 a year. Is that right, Rob?
That's correct, yes.
And they're on standby in case we need to call them in. But as I say, for years, I've never been aware of us calling them in. However, it's a legal requirement and we do have to have one. There is a recommendation at the back of the document. It says that the process for recruitment of independent person is commenced. The position is advertised for appointment from June 2021 with an annual allowance of £100, and 3 cross-party members of the committee are nominated to form a working group prior to undertake shortlistings and interviews. That the working group bring a recommendation for appointment to the S&CG meeting in February 2021 for approval, and recommendation to Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Authority at its meeting in June 2021. Because it's got to be cross-party, I suspect that it needs to be Roger, Sharon, and one other member from Councillor Glenn or myself to be on it. Councillor Glenn?
Well, if you've got a lot on your plate, Chairman, I'm happy to do it unless you're dead keen to have a go.
I think I've sat on 2 in the past. No, I'm very happy for you to have the experience, Councillor Glenn.
Okay. I'm happy to put my name forward.
Thank you. Okay, Jackie, so that's the 3 members.
Lovely. If I include in the recommendations, that's Councillor Glenn, Councillor Price and Councillor Mintoff are the 3 nominated members.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is everyone happy with those recommendations then, and with the composition of the interview panel? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'll be in touch, all 3 members, just to give you some further information as it comes.
Right. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
I think that's all. So can I ask if there's any other business? Anyone want to say anything before I stop the webcast?
Have we agreed the recommendations?
I think so. I did ask.
Yeah, okay.
You did put your hand up, Councillor Glenn.
Yeah, that was to agree that I was going to be a member.
I see. Sorry. Okay. Well, is everyone happy with the recommendations?
Yes.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Can we stop the webcast then, please?